Hey guys, Drew from the Misfit Project. Really excited to welcome you to the very first episode of Misfits in the Kitchen. If you listen to our podcast, you probably know that this first episode is going to be about bone broth. Before we teach you guys how to make the bone broth, I just want to talk a little bit about why you would want to have it. A lot of people are familiar with the supplements, glucosamine and condroiton. They go together a lot. They're used a lot for arthritis. They're actually in their most bioavailable form in food. And when we make bone broth, we pull that out of the bones and the tendons and the ligaments and all that good stuff. The next thing that we're gonna look for in the bone broth is gonna be the collagen. And what's really cool about this, maybe even a little weird, is the collagen actually comes from the chicken or from whatever style of broth you wanna make and becomes part of the collagen in your body. Again, we've got the glucosamine, condroiton, we've got the collagen, we've got these things that are so great for your joints. The next benefit, one that a lot of people know about, is glycine, which is an amino acid. It is so fantastic for your gut health. We have 10,000 square feet of intestines, and when we take that glycine and we have this liquid bioavailable form, it sort of soaks into that area and can make a lot of really good changes in your body, especially when paired with intermittent fasting, another thing you probably know something about if you listen to the podcast. Last but not least, another thing that you might know is that we are really into quality of food. And when you take these ingredients that we're about to go over and you pull all of the nutrients out of them, we're talking about a serious mineral profile, vitamin profile, amino acid profile like we already talked about, and we can really get some nutrient density into our diet. Even if we're having something like rice or pasta or whatever for a refeed, we can use this to cook it in and really make some serious changes. Now we gotta figure out how to make the bone broth. The very first thing that we have to do is acquire some really solid ingredients. Now, you might not recognize this tiny little chicken because this is actually what a chicken looks like when it's pasture raised, and the nutrient density is much higher when the chicken's actually, in the environment that it's supposed to be in, eating what it's supposed to be eating. So we have a pasture raised chicken here. We're all the way in Maine, and this one's from Arkansas, so I'm guessing that these are at Whole Foods all across the country. In the magic world of video, we're not gonna use that. We actually have one cooked and picked already here. Moving on to the vegetables, we have a very exact amount of a handful of parsley, and we don't have to do anything to the parsley because we're not actually eating this stuff, we're just pulling the nutrients out and then discarding it. All of this stuff that you're seeing in front of you here, or I'm seeing in front of me, is organic. So it's really important, again, when we're looking for nutrient density, that we buy organic ingredients, the spices. We talked about the pasture-raised chicken. We've got the apple cider vinegar, all of these different things, because we're focusing so much on nutrient density and what actually gets pulled into the liquid, we need it to be organic. So we have 2 stalks of celery, 2 carrots, 1 yellow onion, 4 smashed cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and all of this stuff, I don't have any fancy knife skills myself, so all of this stuff is like a rough chop, really simple. Just, get the outside of the onion off, get it into, I just quartered it, that's all I did. Rough chop on all this stuff. Again, we don't have to do anything with the parsley. Moving over to the spices, super simple recipe here, still very effective. We have a tablespoon each of Himalayan pink salt, black peppercorn, turmeric, and ginger. And essentially what we're going to do here in a second is we're going to take all this stuff in a gallon of filtered water, dump it into the crock pot, let it simmer. All right, guys, time to make the bone broth. What we have here is an Instant Pot. With the Instant Pot, we're gonna have the choice of whether going with a slow cook or if you're trying to get this done a little bit faster with the pressure cooker, and we'll go over what the times look like here in a second. So the very first thing, chicken's already picked. You'll notice if you take a closer look that I didn't do the best job of picking the chicken. That's actually on purpose. We want some of the skin in there. We want a little bit of the muscle meat in there. We're just making sure that we're actually pulling out all the stuff that we need. So first thing that goes into the pot, get all this good stuff in here. Moving on to the vegetables. Again, we're talking about nutrient density here. Everybody knows we get great nutrient density when we're looking at vegetables, especially once they're actually cooked and the nutrients are pulled out of them. That's gonna stay in the bone broth. Get all this stuff in here. Try not to spill any. The garlic, the onion, the celery, and the parsley. So again, once all the nutrients are pulled out of this, we don't have to eat our vegetables. And if you're like me, sometimes you struggle with getting all that kind of stuff in there. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. This is actually working as an agent to pull minerals out of the bones. This is very important. Do not make bone broth without your apple cider vinegar. That goes in there nice and easy. Last but not least, we have our spices. Pretty well known that all of these are, nutrient dense, or, the electrolytes in the pink salt, but the combination of the black peppercorn and the turmeric, let's see if I can get this going here. The black pepper and the turmeric actually is going to make the curcumin in the turmeric a little bit more bioavailable. So we've got black pepper, we've got the turmeric, we've got the ginger, we've got the Himalayan pink salt, really trying to get some minerals in there. And then again, we talk about organic, we talk about the pasture-raised chicken. Do not put tap water in this. Water is an amazing solvent, and if there's anything in any of the stuff that you're trying to transport, it's going to make it a lot harder. So we just want to use fresh water here. And when we're pouring the water in, there isn't any real fancy trick here. We just want to make sure that if you are using a pressure cooker, I've fallen victim to stuff spraying out of my pressure cooker before, that you do not go over the fill line. If you're using just a slow cooker, it's not a big deal at all. So we pour this in here, try to cover everything. That's pretty close to the fill line there. Just want to make sure that it's all in there. It's going to be a long time. Or if it's the pressure cooker, there's going to be a lot of pressure in there, so you don't have to worry too much about mixing all that stuff up. So now that we have everything in the pressure cooker, we have to decide which option we're going to go with. We have the slow cook option, which is what I recommend. I try to go 12 hours. You can go as long as 18. It's not completely necessary. But if we get inside of the realm of 8 hours, we're not going to pull quite as much out of it. And we want to make sure that we get that gelatin, we get the collagen, we get everything that we can in terms of nutrients out of there. The second option you have with the Instant Pot is actually using it as a pressure cooker. It only allows you to run it for 2 hours, so I would still try to run it at least twice. That's going to give you 4 hours with the pressure cooker. You're going to get a little bit more pulled out of that. And that's really as simple as it is in terms of the setup. In terms of the actual Instant Pot itself, when we're going through our options here, guys, on the Instant Pot, we can go slow cook, and we can set our hours here. I'm going to go 12 hours. Or if we wanted to go pressure, we could just hit pressure and set that to the 120 minutes, and that's really all that is. And if you've never used one of these before and you just got it, definitely a disclaimer on being safe, but the top piece here has venting and sealing on it if you're going with the pressure cooker option, and even if you're going with the slow cook option, just make sure that you push that over to sealing to get it started. So once we've gone through either the 12 to 18 hours with the slow cook or the 4 hours with the pressure cooker, you want to make sure that you turn the pressure cooker here from sealing to venting. If you're just using a standard crock pot, which is perfectly fine, works really well for the slow cook option, you don't need to worry about that. And then this is sort of our kit here to make sure that we extract this in a safe way because of how hot it's going to be, and then really the easiest way. The first step that I always do is I take a slotted spoon and get the pressure cooker nice and close to a trash can. That way you can scoop out almost everything that's in there that you would strain. That would make it a little bit more challenging if you were going to pour. So you can get a lot of that stuff right out of there, right into the garbage can. After that, do not try. I've tried one arm. It's not that easy to do the turn and pour. Not great, especially with something that's that hot. 2 oven mitts. We take the big pot and the strainer here, and we just dump the liquid that we've taken the stuff out of with the slotted spoon down into this big pot here. Now, this stuff holds really well in the freezer, so you can go Pyrex, you can go mason jar, you can do any of these different things, or you can just, cover this if you feel like you're gonna use it in a fairly quick manner. So now that we actually have bone broth, what are we supposed to do with it? I mentioned earlier cooking with it, something that I called the gains meal with my athletes. We try to take something like rice or rice noodles or something of that nature and make them nutrient dense because they aren't inherently nutrient dense on their own. So we can cook them in this bone broth make a really big change. And because when we spike our insulin, we're actually trying to carry some of these amino acids and whatnot into our muscle tissue, and that's going to allow for this to happen. The only thing that you want to be careful of with that is there's going to be a nice thick layer of fat depending on what sort of bones you use. So if you're going for a lower fat meal, once it gets into the fridge, it's actually really easy to skim the fat off. If you're going for sipping, which again, I said earlier was fantastic with intermittent fasting, you give your stomach a break on the fast, and then you introduce something super nutrient dense like this, and it's going to make it even better. And right in front of me here, I have sort of my lineup of spices that I will use depending on what the flavor profile is like once it comes out of the pressure cooker. So we have pink salt, cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, black pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. And you guys will probably know if you're into cooking what sort of flavor profile you want to go for. I just put a little bit of that into a mug, dump the bone broth into the mug, microwave it, and I'm good to go. All right, guys, that's episode 1 of Misfits in the Kitchen. We're making bone broth today. As you can see, it's pretty easy to make. Again, so important to get the right ingredients. Organic, pasture-raised, filtered water, all that stuff makes a huge difference when we're focusing on nutrient density itself. And then, last but certainly not least is just this concept of, it's so good for our joints, it's so good for our stomach, it's so good to round out the nutrient density in our diet. Comments section below, please tell us how your bone broth turned out, whether you have some sort of variation. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. To try to keep all of our content as free as possible, please hit that subscribe button, throw us a like, tell your friends what you think. We'll see you next time.